But there's no reason why we shouldn't have a Green Mayor. There are Green Mayors elected under this same system of first and second preferences all over Europe at the moment. They are rolling up their sleeves and planning these real green recoveries for those cities. I think London should have that too. You can't be enforcing your way to zero murders. You have to be preventing your way. And that means bringing back a lot of the services that have been cut under austerity that help people to get support, to get away from danger, to avoid trouble at a much earlier stage. And I'm talking again about youth services. I've seen how much they've been cut back. Their budgets have been cut by more than half under austerity. We've also seen services for women, survivors of sexual and domestic violence, cut back. We've seen support for perpetrators, things that make a stronger society cut back. Just basic things like community centres and libraries so people can go and find out more about how to get help if they feel like they're getting into trouble. All of these preventive services have been cut back, and with that target, we'd be able to push for more funding through government. We'd be able to work with councils to really focus efforts and services on things that genuinely prevent harm to people. This is a public health approach to crime, and setting this target is at the absolute heart of it. Well, my target is to have zero transport emissions, zero carbon transport in London by 2030. And you don't achieve that by waiting until 2030 and bringing in a ban. That would be the wrong way to do that. So what we have is a really comprehensive transport plan that involves making the streets safer, healthier for walking and cycling, so that people get out of their cars for more of those very short journeys and they have more within reach, so that they can walk and cycle to get to the essential things that they need. And for longer journeys, yes, public transport needs to improve. And for people in outer London, I want to bring down the fares. I want to have one zone for London. Our zone system is very, very out of date. Well, we have an ecological emergency as well as a climate emergency. And in London at the moment, we don't have good policies that are about creating a real ecological network for London. That just means, sounds really technical, but it's just linking up green spaces so that animals and bees and insects and birds can get from one habitat to another, so that there's a proper linked up network of habitats and spaces around London. And the bee-friendly bus stops would be a really important part of that. Now, this is a proper redesign of bus stops right from scratch. I mean, we've listened to Londoners about how uncomfortable the seats are on bus stops, about the fact that the countdown boards that tell you when the next bus is coming in real life, that they're being removed and those need to come back. We'll put those into the bus stop posts. We want to change the way that advertising is done on them, have more solar power, have more bee-friendly roofs. And so there's a whole redesign of bus stops there. And again, it's about sending a signal to Londoners as well that's visible to them on the streets. Under the current mayor, we've managed to push for more funding for youth services by exposing the cuts. We've forced a U-turn on his position on rent controls, a U-turn on giving ballots to estate residents. We're the ones who put forward the motion for declaring a climate emergency and bringing forwards our climate targets, and we still don't have the action in place to achieve those. Our drugs policy was updated about a year and a half ago as a result of a very, very long and detailed process of working with bereaved families, experts, doctors, campaign groups, looking at the experiences of other countries as well. And it's the most rational, the most public health oriented drugs policy of any party. And I think we do need to be looking at heroin prescribing by doctors. We need to be looking at safe consumption. We need to make sure there's better awareness of antidotes that people can have within their homes. There needs to be a genuine harm reduction policy for drugs. So I think those things, they're not strictly within the law at the moment. These would be things like pilots. You do them in collaboration with doctors and with the police, and you'd have to be talking very seriously about trying to prove that other ways are possible. The war on drugs is older than me. It started in, I'm showing off about my age, it started in 1971. It's 50 years old this year. It's quite clear that it's failed, that drugs deaths are going up, and they shouldn't be. They should be coming down. And the best way to do that is to bring things within the law, take the drugs out of the hands of criminals, and really find safe ways to manage people who have addiction and help people who want to reduce their problem drug use in holistic ways, not ways that involve blame or criminalisation. It doesn't work.